Hi, I'm Ann Gaviola. Welcome to the Peak on Global, where we break down what's trending in the business world and what you need to know to stay ahead of the curve. Joining me now is Brett Chang from the Peak podcast. Welcome, Brett.
Hey, Ann, great to be with you as always.
Let's talk about the fact that Monday was declared a federal holiday and National Day of Mourning for Queen Elizabeth. There was initially and continues to be a lot of confusion about who's actually going to get the day off or extra pay for working. What we know is that federal employees, so public servants who work for the federal government, will. But for everyone else, it really depends on what province you're in and in some cases what your employer decides. What do you think of all this, Brett?
Well, it's obviously a tragedy, and different jurisdictions have different approaches as in terms of how they're going to proceed with this. So you see in the UK, it's going to be a bank holiday. I think in Australia, it's going to be a holiday. And then each province is now coming to terms with how they're going to issue whether a holiday or not to their own residents. Now, you can see that in BC, they've chosen that they're going to close the schools that day. In Ontario, it's a day of mourning, and there's going to be no additional action taken. The big issue is that for both parents, if schools are closed, but also business owners, with that short notice, it was only a couple of days that they were going to be given notice that it was going to be a holiday. There's a lot of prep work that has to be done.
So those mom and pop shops who are already saddled with a lot of debt, many of them haven't recovered from COVID restrictions. Now, as you mentioned, banks right across the country are going to stay open. The TSX will continue with business as usual, mostly. So what are your final thoughts on kind of this decision?
Well, and honestly, it harkens back to the days when we were concerned about COVID lockdowns, where businesses really didn't know what the government was going to do, if they could stay open for a week or a month, or what was going to happen next quarter. And it brought back a lot of those memories and a lot of those feelings, which are still fresh in the minds of small business owners. I think you're absolutely right that those business owners, they've struggled enough over the past year. The last thing they need is some additional disruption to their business. You can think about it if you're a restaurant owner, and this is going to change who you schedule. It's going to change how much money you make if you can make payroll that week. And so I think the government's mostly made the right call in allowing small businesses to stay open and by giving them a voice in this conversation, which I also think is very important.
Absolutely. So there's that delicate balance we talk about. Let's switch gears here and talk about this next story, which is decidedly my favorite. The billionaire founder of Patagonia isn't a billionaire anymore. He's giving away the company to support the fight against climate change and trying to turn capitalism on its head. So no mean feat. In a statement, Yvon Chouinard said, "We're making Earth our only shareholder." Brett, this is strategic. This is philanthropic. This is attention getting. And it makes me want to go out and buy a Patagonia vest. What do you think?
Well, the Patagonia story has been unique from day one. Yvon Chouinard, he did not intend to be a billionaire businessman. He was a craftsman whose products just gained popularity over time. And now it's become this big $3 billion company, but he always has had climate change and helping to reduce and repair the damage being done to the environment core to their mission. They actually changed their mission statement a few years ago to that their mission is going to be to help repair the earth from the damage being done through climate change. And so this is not a surprise. It's pretty interesting how he structured it. There's going to be two entities. There'll be a trust which will control the company and ensure it stays true to their values. And then there's a nonprofit that's going to be making investments and donations philanthropically to different NGOs and organizations that are helping to combat climate change. So it's a very interesting model. And absolutely, and I don't think you can look at this and think to yourself, what a great move for the planet and what a interesting strategy by Yvon and his whole team.
Absolutely. It's very evident that there was a lot of thought put into this. You know, what can we do for the most impact, but that also remains aligned with what we value, what we believe is kind of the right way to go about this. And it's important to note, I think, that Patagonia was already, so long before this, it was a certified B Corp company, which I'm told is not an easy designation to get. So this means they're a private for-profit corporation, but that they voluntarily met the highest standards for social and environmental performance. I personally would love to see more leadership walk the walk, talk the talk, put their money where their mouth is, just like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think consumers are demanding it. More and more consumers want to buy from brands that are socially responsible, that are giving back. And Patagonia is obviously now in a league of its own. They're going to donate $100 million of their profits, which is all of their profits, annually to organizations combating climate change. So this is in a different realm entirely. But I think you're absolutely right that it's not just your sentiment, Ann, but sentiment across the board from consumers that they want to shop with brands that they trust, that align with their values. I think Patagonia is the gold standard for that. But every brand can learn from this, and they can do more to better align with the values of their consumer.
Yeah, it does feel like this is a shift that's happening. And yes, definitely Patagonia in a league of its own when it comes to this. But maybe we're going to see more and more of these types of announcements. Maybe not necessarily from billionaires, but every little bit helps. Let's talk as well about the first Canadian edition of the world famous Michelin Guide, which was revealed in Toronto. Just over a dozen restaurants, I believe 13 in Toronto, have now been awarded with Michelin Stars. They're the first in the country to join this prestigious ranking of culinary destinations. And this is coming to Vancouver later this year. What do you think of all this?
It's super exciting, and I tuned into the whole ceremony. Now, the ceremony had its own few hiccups, but it's great for the city of Toronto. It's great for the country. People travel from around the world to go visit all the different 1, 2, 3-star Michelin restaurants. And so the fact that we now have some in Canada, well, hopefully, one, that means that more people will be coming to Canada to visit these restaurants in Toronto and Vancouver. But two, it means that we've got some of these same restaurants in our backyard. And we've known for a long time that cities like Toronto and Vancouver have had great thriving food scenes. It's finally great to see them recognized on the world stage.
Absolutely. It does make me a little bit sad that some of my favorite places are going to be really tough to get into, so I don't love that, but I do wish them absolutely all the best. I was equally excited about the 17 restaurants that got the Bib Gourmand designation. So it's not a star, but it means they offer amazing, affordable food and drinks. Do you remember when we started the Peak on Global, I mentioned the best taco place in Toronto happens to be vegan. They made that list, and this reminds me, I need to introduce you to this place.
Well, I'm excited to go, and I do remember that end. That was one of the first things you said to me was you have to try this vegan taco place. I've never actually been, so I'm excited to go with you. And then on the flip side, though, my favorite taco place, Campechano, was also on the Bib Gourmand list. And so, look, like I said, we've known for a long time there's some great food in Toronto and Vancouver, across the country, and just finally get to see it getting recognized, especially the Bib Gourmand ones, which are ones that are much more accessible to people like you and I.
Absolutely. Okay, so it is a standing date. TBD. Have your people call my people, and we're going to leave it there. Thank you for your time and your insight, as always, Brett.
Thanks so much, Anne.
And you can get all your daily business news with a Peak Daily podcast. It is available for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.